and this crowd now has made its way to Scottsdale Road. This is the southwest corner of Scottsdale Road and Camelback. They are making their way in front of P.F. Chang's in the waterfront.
And there's someone, is that maybe an employee that's inside? Because it looks like they're communicating with somebody.
It does, and I think that's
it's
got to be terrifying.
Terrifying, absolutely terrifying. You've got this mob outside your place of business. Okay, well, it looks like they've decided to move on. Thankfully. No,
so now it looks like
really.
they're going to make
they're throwing stuff again.
Yeah, slowly make their way. It looks like they're going to be headed south on Scottsdale Road.
Oh, now they're trying to get in the mall. Not one cop in sight.
I know. What the heck?
Let me show y'all something. Let me show y'all something. See this? Half of those motherfuckers ain't even black. Guarantee you, man. I guarantee you half of them ain't black. Guarantee. Guarantee. Look at this. Look at this. Look at all this.
Oh.
Young kids just trying to come up,
Sarah,
man.
our house will be over there towards,
We'll be able to get out.
we're going to get through there. No, we'll go back to your car that way. Hey, I would, Sarah, come back here. This is okay. Oh, man.
You're idiots.
Don't say nothing, don't say nothing. Look at that.
They have
Wait,
tears.
let him go, let him go.
Yeah, Blake, right here.
Let him go. Let the main crowd go. Because they're all going to run that way.
No, they're not. They're running this way. They shoot tear gas.
Square was actually targeted according to these social media posts because this is the most upscale mall pretty much in the valley, and so they showed up according to the social media post to actually do damage. So we can see some of that damage that they have done throughout the night, just kind of quickly moving around the mall. Okay, we actually, if we have this, I think we have some ground video right now. Okay, this is from one of our reporters, Claudia Rupsich. She is live on the scene. It looks like she is actually on Camelback right now. I don't know, is this live or is this taped? Is she live right now going down? Okay, this is taped just from a few minutes ago. Okay, so you can see them right there outside the AT&T store. They did actually get inside that store right there. Yeah, and went through there and stole, I guess, whatever they could get their hands on. And then not long after that, that crowd then moved to the Apple store at Fashion Square. So this area right here is just east of Fashion Square on Camelback, that kind of stretch of shops right there.
And we continue to reiterate, too, especially in this area here near Fashion Square Mall, none of these roads were shut down. There was no pathway for these demonstrators to go down to keep them out of traffic. And so you're having people who are just out for the night driving down the road who are also caught up in this and trying to dodge people as they go into the street. Our Cliff Castle chopper still overhead there. Looks like not as big of a crowd as what we've been seeing in the last 5 to 10 minutes. But these are some of the stores that have already been hit. We saw them try to get into the AT&T store. We saw them hit the Apple store. We've also heard Crate and Barrel, Urban Outfitters. We saw them go through Urban Outfitters, kind of systematically making their way through this area. And then just a few minutes ago, we also saw a much heavier police presence. So we might start to see a little more police enforcement here if those folks don't disperse as they've been told.
Yeah, our Mike Pelton, he is up the way in Phoenix, in downtown Phoenix. He has been following the protesters all night. Actually, you've walked a couple of miles with these protesters. What is the scene right now? Where are they headed?
Yeah, at least a couple miles, Justin. Right now we're back in the intersection of 7th Avenue and Van Buren. You might remember we were here about 90 minutes ago or so. Traffic, as you can see to your left here, is trying to head westbound, but you have all these protesters who are here in the middle of the road. Now, these protesters are north of the police station and walking down Van Buren because, as my colleague John Genovese has been detailing, we were there earlier as well. You had kind of that standoff and confrontation with police officers outside of headquarters where anytime some of those protesters tried to get really close, some of them were throwing fireworks, and then police officers would then fire back with some non-lethal deterrence. Saw some paintball guns, loud explosions, tear gas, and then this crowd, the bulk of which we're with right now, kind of went to the sidelines, tried to figure out what to do, and has now started marching in the streets within about a half mile of the Phoenix Police headquarters. So we're heading east on Van Buren right now. Traffic is trying to get through, can't really do that. But this part of the protest right here, it was not super peaceful about 30 minutes ago. It has since calmed down. We're hearing chants again as people try to get their message across. This is right now much more calm than we saw about half an hour ago. I'm not sure exactly where they're headed. We're going to try to get to the front of this group, guys. And as we figure out where this group specifically is headed, we'll check back in with you. Back to you guys.
All right, Mike Pelton there in downtown Phoenix. Thank you, Mike. We want to take you back to our live aerials over the area around Fashion Square Mall, our Cliff Castle chopper there. We've been told that some of those folks there on the ground have been throwing rocks at some of the officers as they are telling them to disperse. They have declared this an unlawful assembly. So we are going to have to wait and see if things escalate anymore. There does appear to be some smoke in that area. We're not sure where that came from. People running across the street and also going door to door through businesses, trying to get in and trying to vandalize the area, breaking glass. It appears that there's a woman running here. She appears to be holding a child. Not sure what's going on there, but it looks pretty chaotic as people who are just out for the night are getting caught up with some of these demonstrators who are out there. And then we also have an increased police presence coming in, trying to enforce and telling people that they need to disperse. And so this is, again, happening in Scottsdale. We do have a crew on the way to this area. We had heard earlier in the night that something like this was possible, that a group of people, they were going to go to Fashion Square with the intent of causing damage. And there you have it. It looks like some fireworks going off outside of one of the buildings there. And there's that increased police presence that we were talking about earlier. A line of officers there. Looks like they are in riot gear. They have their horses out and ready. They have several cruisers behind them, and they are starting to push forward to tell these people that they need to disperse and they need to stop what they're doing and leave the area. So this is the first time we've really seen these officers here in Scottsdale mobilize and really push forward to try to break up what's going on here in the Fashion Square area, Justin.
I think you can still, yes, you can still hear me. I just reached out trying to get a hold of somebody, one of the spokespersons from Fashion Square to find out kind of how they're handling this and how they're moving forward with this. But you can see the Scottsdale police now just starting to kind of sweep that area, making their way down Camelback. It looks like from this vantage point, looks like they're headed north on Camelback Road as they kind of make their way. As you can see, somebody else running right there as well. This is kind of on the side of Dick's Sporting Goods as well, so you can see him running across the street right there. This all just unfolded Fashion Square within the last hour. We could see the group just kind of making their way around the perimeter of Fashion Square, breaching what they could, damaging what they could. For some reason, they were throwing bricks even through the P.F. Chang's window, getting into the restaurant, doing damage there. And what's the thing here and what's different about Phoenix is Phoenix basically had all of those roads blocked. Here, they don't. You can see this is just everyday people making their way down Camelback, down Scottsdale Road, some of them turning into what that area right there is the Harkins Theater area. So I think it's caught some people. Our Claudia Rupsich, she was one of our reporters. She was just driving down Scottsdale Road and just happened to come across it.
And one big difference that you'll notice here in the Scottsdale area, we're not seeing any of those barriers like we've seen set up outside of the buildings in downtown Phoenix to protect from this vandalism and from this looting. You mentioned Claudia Rupsich. She sent us some video earlier. We do have Claudia on the phone now. She is in that area. Claudia, what have you been seeing as you've been driving through that Scottsdale area there?
Good night, guys. So I'm not in that area anymore. We were having dinner nearby near Scottsdale Road and Highland Avenue, and all of a sudden the waiters came up to us and said, "Hey, we're hearing protesters coming toward us. Can you guys go home? Have a safe ride?" We heard the helicopters, we saw the police lights, and so we drove home. And while we were driving on Scottsdale Road, we saw this giant crowd of people walking up Scottsdale Road. We saw them tear down some fences. You saw the video that I took quickly as we were driving. They were breaking some windows, AT&T, the Apple store, and so we just tried to capture some of that on video. But definitely where we were eating, there was a sense of urgency to get out of the area in case they were headed toward us. But I don't know who these people are. I know there were a lot of people, and they were definitely out there to cause some destruction, but it was just very fast, and it happened all very quickly. So we just drove by quickly to get out of the police's way.
Claudia, right now we're seeing, I know you're not in the area, but we are seeing Scottsdale police start to kind of push through that area. What did you see in that area as far as police? Were there any in that area?
Yes, heavy police presence, starting on the intersection of Scottsdale Road and Camelback. For a few blocks, there was definitely police everywhere. We saw the lights before we even heard about people coming, and we saw lights, and we had seen that there were people talking about coming to Scottsdale, but we didn't know it would happen so close to us, and so they were definitely preparing. I didn't see any officers like on the actual Scottsdale Road where the protesters were, but they were outside of their cars. They did have gear, but again, we drove by so quickly, I didn't have time to stop or ask any questions.
All right, it looks like we might have lost our shot from Cliff Castle Chopper over Scottsdale, and it looks like we've lost Claudia, but she was saying that, she was out having dinner there in that area in Scottsdale. They were told that protesters might be going their way and to leave with a sense of urgency, and she sent us some video a little earlier today. Okay, it looks like we do have Claudia back, and Claudia, you mentioned that a sense of urgency that you had to get out of there. Did you sense that other people were doing the same and people were just trying to leave as fast as they could?
I can only talk to where I was. It's a restaurant, and the waiter came up to us and said, "Hey, what he said is that we got a call asking about security because people are headed your way." And so they told us that, and we were about to leave anyway. So, we got in our car and we drove home, and on our way we saw Scottsdale Road. But yes, there was a sense of urgency in the restaurant, at least to make sure that everyone who was there could get home safely. And they were sort of kind of wrapping up and making sure that everyone knew what was going on, just in case something did happen. At that time, protesters weren't close to the restaurant, but as soon as we got in the car and started driving, we saw that they were very close and that they were stopping at these businesses. Clearly some of them causing some damage, and so that's why I think they wanted to make sure everyone was getting home safely.
We're looking at your video right now, right outside the AT&T store. I mean, this is such a popular area, that people go to on the weekends. I mean, we've been under quarantine. The mall just reopened not long ago. What was going through your head when you're driving down Scottsdale Road and all of a sudden you see this?
Well, it's scary, and it's shocking, and I think you hear the loud bangs from people throwing things or kicking windows and doors in, and we were actually live streaming our coverage from the restaurant, watching it, and we were saying, like, hey, they're getting closer and closer. We should probably just not be around in the area since we're not working, just to make sure police have space. And so driving through it, there were a lot of curious people. But yeah, AT&T and Apple is huge. It's very well lit, and there was a humongous crowd of people sort of just lining up. You can see some of it in my video when I turned the phone. But it's hard to see what was going on if people got inside. Honestly, I don't have a view of what's going on right now.
They did.
So, but it was a lot. It was really scary. You could see people going in some of the stores. So I don't know what they took. I don't know what the intent is, but clearly it's weird. I mean, Scottsdale is a very calm but also popular area at night. So it's certainly something I haven't seen.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
and it's certainly something that we were hoping that we wouldn't see tonight, and that city leaders in Phoenix, and I'm sure all across the county were hoping that they would not have to see any of this happening tonight. But we saw it right here on ABC 15 Live when those demonstrators breached the Apple store there. I've been told that they have broken several windows. There is a ton of damage in that area, and we have been watching as police officers there try to push forward, try to step up their enforcement. We've seen officers lining up, standing shoulder to shoulder in riot gear. We saw some officers on horses. We saw several cruisers behind them, all getting ready to make a push to try to get people out of this area. And again, this is something that the city of Phoenix was almost prepared for tonight. They'd set up barriers so that there would be at least a bigger separation between some of these demonstrators and the city buildings and some private buildings down there that suffered damage last night. But here in Scottsdale, even though we had heard some rumors on social media that this could happen, obviously not prepared in the same way. No barriers there preventing those folks from getting right up to those buildings. And again, we have not spoken with people who are there on the ground in Scottsdale who are doing this. We don't know what their message is. We don't know what they're trying to get across. We don't know if they're affiliated with what's happening in downtown Phoenix right now. But I think earlier today it was very clear. City leaders, even folks who were supporting these protesters, were asking for calm. We're asking for peace. This is some video of what we saw a little earlier in downtown Phoenix. I know we keep going back and forth from Phoenix to Scottsdale, but we're trying to bring you the most comprehensive coverage of what's happening in both areas at once. This is one of those moments where things did escalate there in downtown Phoenix. We saw some sort of what looked like fireworks that were initially thrown at police out in front of Phoenix Police Headquarters. Police then throwing what appeared to be tear gas back to to try and disperse the crowds. And we also, when we spoke with Melissa Blasius a little earlier, we heard the helicopter overhead. We heard them telling people to disperse and warning them that they would be arrested if they didn't. And that is something that the Phoenix Police Chief Jerry Williams spoke about earlier today, saying that they would not tolerate the violence and the vandalism that they saw last night. Our chopper now back in Scottsdale as we try to get an update here on how things are going as police try to push forward to disperse the crowd. It looks, at least from what we can see right now.
This is Old Town Scottsdale.
Oh, that's Old Town Scottsdale.
Yep.
Okay.
This is like that old part, kind of where they have the restaurants that you kind of just meander through. They've got the fountains in there.
Oh, yes.
Just right off of Fashion Square. That's where they're at right now. I have been trying to get a hold for the last few minutes somebody from the city of Scottsdale and from Fashion Square to kind of see what they're doing, how they're handling this right now, because obviously, you know, not expecting this kind of damage, this kind of looting going on from these people.
Yeah, and I know we're approaching 11:30 at night, so those of you watching this are likely home already, but I think, you know, just to say, stay away from this area. If you know anyone heading to this area, tell them to leave as police are trying to get that situation under control. We want to take you back now to downtown Phoenix. We have ABC 15's John Genovese standing by. John, I saw some police cruisers going by a little earlier, lights on. What's going on where you are right now?
Yeah, guys, well, since we checked in last, we did see that line of police cruisers kind of skim by Phoenix Police Headquarters here and then circle around. It looked like they were heading towards the state capitol. But you guys were talking about this group that had been out here earlier in the night, this group of several hundred demonstrators. The majority of them at this point have cleared, and of those that remain, they are kind of just scattered here outside Phoenix Police Headquarters. We are just south of 7th Avenue in Washington. Now you can see there that line of officers still in full riot gear, and I do want to point out those officers there right on the corner. They have moved to that spot, and last time when we checked in, we mentioned that there were beanbag bullets and rubber bullets being fired towards us and potentially at us as well. Those officers are now stationed there on the corner, and some of these demonstrators have started to approach them with their hands up, kind of inching closer and closer. On the south side of the street, right in front of the forensic lab, we saw one man yelling at police as he walked towards them, and then heard what sounded like several of those officers firing those beanbag guns as well towards that man. He then backed off. So every once in a while, some of these demonstrators appear to be kind of testing the conditions, inching towards police officers and seeing what happens with their hands up as those officers are still stationed out here. Now, in terms of the fireworks and the explosions that we heard, that hasn't happened in at least 20 minutes or so, I'd say. So things have certainly calmed down out here, but all around us at every intersection, every street, there are a lot of police officers, a large police presence as they put up barricades earlier in the night, trying to make sure that no cars can get here, and also so that officers can kind of work in this area and inch through this area if need be. But we did not see that line of riot officers, at least at this spot, like we did just a few nights ago. They seem to be pretty much stationed in front of Phoenix Police Headquarters, and despite the fact that that unlawful assembly order was issued, we still see these demonstrators just waiting and watching out here, waiting to see what happens, and those officers at this point really only firing those non-lethals if these demonstrators get however close they deem to the entrance of Phoenix Police Headquarters. So things have certainly calmed down, at least where we are at. In terms of this group, it has scaled down in size dramatically. Now, I can say things were extremely peaceful throughout the night up until 10 o'clock. That's when we started to see some of these demonstrators letting off smoke grenades. That's when we saw just a few people, just a few among the crowd starting to vandalize certain things. We saw one person break the window at the federal courthouse, and they actually had armed officers inside the courthouse at that point. And then just a few minutes later, when we got to this spot in front of Phoenix Police Headquarters, that's when that large exchange happened with fireworks, explosions, and that initial round of tear gas was let off. But at this point, again, guys, things appear to be calming down out here. Unclear exactly what officers will do next as this much smaller group of demonstrators remain. We will stay out here and pass along any updates, of course, but for now, we'll send it back to you guys.
Oh, they're in the mall. Sorry, John Genovese. I was just looking at live video coming from Air 15. We do want to check in with. We do want to check in with Mike Pelton really quick. Hey there, Mike.
Hey, John. 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 Hey, John.
Yeah, hey Justin. So I think if I heard John Genovese correctly, he was talking about the crowd scaling down outside Phoenix Police Headquarters. That's because we're with a bulk of the protesters who have since left the police building after there was that confrontation that lasted about half an hour, where there was tear gas. Some of the protesters threw fireworks. It became a really tense situation for about 30 minutes. This is the group of protesters who finally figured out that they're not going to have a lot of success tonight getting really close to the police headquarters building. So they've since started to take off throughout downtown Phoenix, and they're now heading east on Washington, just past Central. Unclear exactly where we're all headed, but we're continuing to follow them. And once we figure that out, Justin, we'll get back with you.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Let's go live out to Fashion Square right now, where these looters, they have actually made their way into the mall. We've seen kind of them on the outskirts of the mall, the Apple Store. They have actually made their way into the mall right now. Daniel, you just saw somebody running out with a handful of clothes.
Yeah,
not sure what store they came from, but they have made their way into some store in the mall, and they are starting to just take stuff out.
Yeah, that front entrance there, you see the shattered glass on the ground. In just the last minute or so, we saw about 4 or 5 people come out of Fashion Square with armfuls of what appear to be clothes. I'm assuming they're clothes. We don't know where they're from, but you see it again. Someone else just came running out, and they have those clothes out there on the sidewalks there.
Yeah, so there you could see the Shake Shack right there, which is just right along Camelback Road. So I'm trying to think what stores are along in that area. Fashion Square is a place that I frequent quite a bit. So I think you've got H&M down there. You've got Lululemon that's straight ahead. You've got the movie theater, Dick's Sporting Goods. Not sure what store that they are actually getting this stuff out of at this point. But just a few minutes ago, we saw them make their way into the Apple Store, which was... It was just the amount of people that were going into that store and looting and stealing stuff out of there was just crazy.
And I don't know if you saw this, Justin, but a few people just went into that entrance. They took off their shirts, wrapped it around their face, and went in. So, you know, they may be bracing for maybe a heavier response from law enforcement as this goes on. Scottsdale PD did declare this an unlawful assembly a while ago now, probably at least 20, 25 minutes ago, basically saying that anyone who did not disperse would be arrested.
They just got out of their car and gonna go into the mall right there.
And we have to reiterate that we don't know what their message is, what they say they're trying to do. We don't know how or if they're affiliated with anything happening in downtown Phoenix. So we don't want to let this overshadow the very important message that those peaceful protesters and peaceful demonstrations were going for earlier. Here is more of that increased police presence we were talking about. You see those 2 or 3 officers on horseback there, several officers in riot gear, and several cruisers there with their lights flashing. We did see them line up earlier and kind of make a push down the sidewalk to try to get people off of that Camelback area, and that's when we saw things kind of spill out into some of the surrounding areas, and also getting closer to the Old Town Scottsdale area. And
there you go. You can see this is live. You can see people running in and out of Fashion Square. So that guy right there looks like he's just got a handful of clothes that he's carrying out. You know, and the city officials were talking about this earlier today, that it is a small group of people. And tonight we saw some of those demonstrators, they were having conversations with police. I was watching a live feed come in, and it was actually a moving moment sitting there watching those demonstrators have a very civil conversation with Phoenix police about the change that they wanted to see. They were, even at one point, they were laughing, and they were just having a really heart-to-heart conversation. The police officer saying at one point, look, I'm a dad as well, you know, and he wants the best. And then things turn, and then this is what you see, these people just taking advantage of this situation, really destroying the message that these people really want, that they want out there. They want to see change. They don't want to see this. The people that want that change, they've been saying, please don't loot. Please don't cause all of this damage. It's destroying the message.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Pelton in downtown Phoenix, he spoke earlier with a woman from Oregon who said, you know, they're frustrated, they're angry, but that they're not out there to vandalize, to loot, to engage in violence. They're simply out there to be heard. And I think that is the message behind what a lot of those demonstrators were doing out there for most of the evening until we saw things really escalate here in Scottsdale. There you see a few people coming out of that entrance to Fashion Square with clothes in their hands. Again, this is just one of several areas that has been vandalized tonight.
Yeah, 18 buildings in the city of Phoenix were vandalized last night. And so the city, Phoenix, came out with a push today and said that is not going to happen tonight. And the chief, Jerry Williams, contacted other law enforcement agencies so she could get backup in the city of Phoenix because she did not want to see the federal courthouse set on fire like people were trying to do last night with fireworks. And so now we have this situation here up the road in Scottsdale where we saw these looters, these whatever you want to call them, making their way around the mall, around the perimeter of the mall, damaging every store that they possibly could.
And in the meantime, things are still happening in downtown Phoenix. I know it appeared that things were quieting down a bit in that area, but we want to get back to John Genovese, still there downtown with demonstrators in that area. John, what's going on?
Well, guys, just in the last few minutes since we checked in last, we've actually seen now this line of police officers in full riot gear now inching north here on 7th Avenue. They kind of unloaded on Jefferson as they are starting to clear out this area near Phoenix Police Headquarters. We've also just heard more flashbangs going off, more what we can only guess are non-lethal explosions going off by those officers right in front of Phoenix Police Headquarters as well. As it appears at this point, officers are again taking a more aggressive approach, trying to clear out this crowd that is still here. But you can see this line is similar to what we saw just a few nights ago. These officers with shields and batons kind of inching their way down as they work to clear out this crowd, given the fact that this unlawful assembly has now been declared. And you can see there's some smoke now going off in the middle of this intersection here at 7th Avenue and Washington as we see what looks like another line of officers potentially inching south, and we are hearing some more beanbag rounds going off. So we are going to move for our own safety here. Again, as these officers are now inching down the street. Carlos, if you're in a safe place to do so, I want to show folks kind of what we see from this vantage point. These officers with these non-lethal weapons, these beanbag guns, are now moving west along Washington, firing them towards the crowd. We're going to keep moving, guys, just because we don't want to get hit again here tonight. But they are now taking, again, a much more aggressive approach to clearing out these remaining demonstrators. At least several hundred demonstrators of these many more that were out here earlier on tonight are still here. As folks are now starting to scatter, you can see some more smoke going off there behind the bushes as this line of officers continues moving west down Washington towards the state capitol, with what looks like several police vehicles right behind them as they're taking a much more, again, aggressive approach to clearing out these demonstrators that still remain here near Phoenix Police Headquarters. We were just at that corner. We could hear those beanbag rounds going off. We saw maybe 10 minutes ago this influx of officers, again in full riot gear, unload there at 7th Avenue and Jefferson, and then just start inching their way down. Some officers with those beanbag guns right in front as this smoke continues to go off. It looks like they may have stopped for the time being, as many of these demonstrators are actually moving now towards the state capitol building as they start to dissipate that area right in front of police headquarters. So guys, this is kind of how things have evolved all night. There have been these back and forths every few minutes, but obviously at this point, police, compared to just 15 minutes ago, are being much more aggressive. Again, using those non-lethal weapons. We can hear them, we can see them, we can see much more of that smoke. I don't know if that's coming through on the microphone, but we can hear those beanbag rounds being fired off right now in the parking lot right across from where we are.
You can hear
several officers you can see there with those lighted helmets. We just got hit with one. I just got hit in the ankle with one here. I just got hit in the ankle with a beanbag bullet myself here as we continue inching down.
Yeah, our John Genovese out there.
And 9th, and they are continuing to fire those non-lethal explosions here in the street. Guys, we're going to find a little bit of a safer spot here. As you can see, this crowd continue to dissipate, continue to move west down Washington.
Our John Genovese.
And police, they're now letting off some gas, guys.
Okay, John, be careful.
We're gonna have to send it back to you right now.
Okay, be careful out there. Let's go to Mike Pelton. He is outside Talking Stick Resort Arena. What's going on there, Mike?
Yeah, Justin, what we've seen now is this is the crowd that basically gave up on protesting right out front of the police headquarters. They've since been making their way down and through streets throughout downtown Phoenix. What they've been doing is they've been taking over some of the intersections where traffic is trying to get through, but they've been kneeling. We just, when they shut down this intersection right here, they were yelling "Justice for Dion." And now they've taken to the plaza near Talking Stick Resort Arena, and they're continuing now to push east on Jefferson. Again, all of this, or most of this group was at police headquarters earlier when there was that big confrontation that you've heard John Genovese talk about. We were over there as well. And then this large group here was trying to kind of figure out what to do for a while when police just weren't letting them get near the headquarter building. That's when we saw some protesters throw fireworks, and then some of the officers deploy the non-lethal rounds, pepper balls, tear gas, and the like. So this group, we don't really know where they're headed. We've just been kind of following right in the middle of the group for about 45 minutes now. And Justin, as I said, we're heading east along Jefferson, just in front of Talking Stick Resort Arena. And since this group has left Phoenix Police, it has calmed down significantly. This is in the past 30 minutes or so, been a really peaceful protest. Again, they're shutting down the intersections, but remaining peaceful when they do so, yelling "Justice for Dion" and chanting some other things as well as they try to spread their message tonight.
Mike,
back to you guys.
I have a question for you. We've seen the bulk of police outside, Phoenix headquarters, kind of in that area along 7th Avenue. Is there a large police presence in this part of downtown as well?
No, I have not seen a police officer in a little while. Doesn't mean, of course, there's not some officers that we can't see, but since we've left Phoenix Police, went down Van Buren, worked our way east, and now down Jefferson, I haven't seen a lot of officers, especially where we're at right now. And we know that some of the protesters earlier in the night were trying to figure out which roads were blocked off, where the police were, which had barricades, and kind of how they could navigate through the city. And then that's how you end up on Jefferson heading east of Talking Stick Resort Arena. So I'm not sure if there's officers in this crowd, but they're certainly not very visible at this point.
All right. Mike Pelton out there in downtown Phoenix outside Talking Stick Resort Arena. Be careful out there, Mike. We do want to get to some video of the situation that's developing at Fashion Square in Scottsdale. I think we have that video, aerial video, I think, from Scottsdale, if we have that. But police right now, Danielle, working in Scottsdale. Here we go.
Yeah, this is from earlier.
Oh, this is downtown Phoenix.
Yeah, this is from downtown Phoenix earlier tonight. We were actually watching this, and this was kind of that tipping point where things started to escalate a bit earlier in the evening. We saw some of those, what appeared to be fireworks going off from the crowd right toward those police officers there standing in front of Phoenix PD headquarters. And now here,
Yeah,
this is a look from earlier tonight at Scottsdale Fashion Square when demonstrators there breach the Apple store. You see them there trying to get through the front door. They start hanging on the door, and eventually they get it open and they went through. This is just one of several businesses that we've seen hit in that area in the last hour and a half or so.
Yeah, my friend who is in that area said that they were hearing on social media today that some of the stores inside the mall, we did actually see them breach the doors and actually get in the mall, not just Apple, but some of the stores that they wanted to get into was Gucci and Louis Vuitton, two of the popular stores there in Fashion Square, trying to loot in there as well. And that's outside Neiman Marcus. Probably about an hour ago or so, you could see that they actually made their way into the store there. Then they ran around the corner, and then we saw them throw bricks through Crate and Barrel, and then they just made their way down Camelback and Scottsdale Road, just going from store to store.
We saw them hit Urban Outfitters, actually get into Urban Outfitters there. They tried P.F. Chang's. I don't know if they actually eventually got into P.F. Chang's, but basically systematically just going business to business, storefront to storefront, trying to get in. For a little while there, we didn't really see too many officers in this area until probably about 15-20 minutes ago. We really started to see some of those officers coming in. We saw some on horseback. We saw some lined up. They were pushing down the sidewalk, telling people to disperse, to leave leave the area. And meantime, we spoke with our own Claudia Rupsich. She was out enjoying a night off and having dinner. And in fact, the restaurant she was in received a call saying, hey, this is happening. You know, we advise that you try to leave as soon as you can. And so, you know, not just law enforcement, not just demonstrators caught up in this, but especially here in Scottsdale, where a lot of these roads weren't even blocked off.
Right.
You have people who were just out for the night, maybe enjoying some spots that had recently reopened in the last few days, getting caught up in what's really turned out to be just massive vandalism and looting there in Scottsdale.
Yeah, it's just so unfortunate to see these images there. And Claudia kind of touched on it, that it was scary for them because, you know, in downtown Phoenix, you know that those protests were planned and there were a lot of precautions taken. There were barricades put up to kind of keep people in line, keep things in order. But in this situation here, there was nothing. So you had these folks that were just out to dinner. They were out shopping. You know, they have been under quarantine for quite some time. The mall just reopened recently after being shut down because of COVID-19. So you just had a group of people out there that just wanted to enjoy the night. There you see them. They're at P.F. Chang's, some other stores along the way that they were just basically busting down any store that they could get into. I know that we are working to get, this is Claudia Ripsich's video right here after she got out of dinner, making her way down Scottsdale Road over there, headed towards Camelback Road. I do know that we are working to get Scottsdale police on the phone in just a few minutes to give an update to us. Of course, a lot of questions on what's happening in Scottsdale tonight.
Yeah, especially because for most of the last couple of days, we've been so focused on what's been happening in the city of Phoenix. And, you know, their preparations for tonight after the last 2 nights of just really dangerous protests that turned dangerous, I should say. They started out peaceful, turned increasingly more violent. And so going into tonight, all eyes were kind of on downtown Phoenix to see if that was going to happen again. Again, we had heard some rumblings of something like this happening in Scottsdale, with people intentionally targeting areas like the mall, some of those higher end areas, and it looks like that has happened. I believe we do have someone on the phone now from Scottsdale Police Department.
Brian Reynolds is on the phone with us. Brian, it's Brian, correct?
That's correct.
What can you tell us about the situation in Scottsdale right now? We're looking at video from our helicopter, people looting Neiman Marcus. We've seen multiple stores where they have got into. What's the latest there?
Well, you're seeing more than I am, since I'm not in Scottsdale at the moment. But what I've seen from news footage is disturbing. You know, all of us in law enforcement are sickened by what happened in Minneapolis to start this whole chain of events. But the fact of the matter is that what's happening now in cities across the nation, including Scottsdale, has nothing to do with Mr. Floyd's death. It's just people taking the opportunity to take advantage of it and commit crimes. You know, peaceful protests are welcome. They're protected by the First Amendment, but vandalism and assaultive behavior and stealing, theft, that's not protected, and that's what you're seeing in Scottsdale right now.
And we had heard a little earlier tonight on social media that something like this could happen. Had your department and your officers, were you prepared for something like this to possibly break out in your area tonight?
I'm sorry, there's a lot of background and you kind of cut out. So what I heard you say is that you heard some stuff on social media about this being a possibility, and then I didn't catch the rest of it.
Oh, okay, I apologize. I'll try again. Just wondering if your department, if your officers, if you had any heads up that something like this was going to happen.
Yeah, we did hear some rumblings about it via social media beginning this afternoon. We started monitoring those channels and making plans for this eventuality. But the fact of the matter is, you know,
oh, I think we may have lost Brian Reynolds. That was Brian Reynolds. Oh, okay. Looks like he's still there. Brian, we are starting to see some images here on the ground of the mall. It looks like graffiti inside. It looks like several people running around inside the mall. How does the department, how do officers even start to tackle something like this to try to get this under control safely?
That's a great question. That's going to take a concerted effort on all of our parts to work together in concert to disperse that crowd. How do we do that? Honestly, I don't know how do we begin doing that without being on the ground and seeing what you're seeing. But at this point, as crass as it sounds, we are dealing with property crimes, and we're not going to put our officers or other citizens at risk for getting injured to save some property. So that's our first intention. If what we're dealing with is mostly property damage and property crimes, we can always follow up with the offenders later on. The first steps that we need to take is to protect life first, property second.
Can you tell, what? This is a Saturday night in Scottsdale. I mean, when you have a situation like this, I mean, we had the situation in Phoenix. I don't know, what kind of manpower are we talking about that you can have to respond to something like this?
Yeah, again, with only a few hours' notice, I don't know what plans are made to get additional resources into the area. I know we've reached out to other departments and other agencies for assistance, so you may see some of those resources down there assisting as well.
We're seeing video of they're running through the mall right now, Brian, and they're using something that looks like a metal object, trying to break into cases in one of those center court kiosks with cell phone cases or whatever. Does the police department, do you guys go through the security footage with something like this? Somebody actually has a shopping bag that they're walking through with. Do you go through the video and try to identify these people after the fact and maybe arrest them, press charges?
Yeah, absolutely. Our investigators will absolutely follow up after the fact, do what we can to identify individuals responsible for committing crimes and make arrests.
Have you seen anything like this in Scottsdale before? I have never seen anything like this in my time here.
Not to this extent, no, I haven't.
And so what's the plan as the night goes on? You know, what should people who maybe live near that area, what should they know going forward as far as what's going to happen as the night goes on to try to get this under control?
If you live in the area, stay indoors. Don't go outside because there's obviously it's not a stable situation. We're going to be working through the night as long as it takes to stabilize that area. But if you live in the area, stay indoors. Don't go into the area at all. Stay out of it. Let us do our job.
All right. Brian Reynolds with Scottsdale Police on the phone with us. Thank you very much, Brian. We just saw live video right there of just people running through the mall right there. It appeared that they were covering their face. This is from Air 15 just a bit ago. As you can see them running out of Neiman Marcus. But those live images, I don't know if we could go back to those live images on the ground. We could see people running through the mall. Some of them look like they had a metal object trying to bust through some of the cases there. I just got a text from a friend in that area. They had busted out every window, or just about every window, at the Mercedes dealership, which is just up the street as well. So this is the live look right now in Fashion Square. As you can just see these people running out of the mall right now.
And something that I thought was interesting and very important that Brian from Scottsdale PD mentioned. You know, we had been talking about how it looked like the police were maybe hanging back a bit. And he said that, you know, right now it appears that these are property crimes, that people are destroying property. And while they don't want to see that, they also don't want to put officers at risk by sending them in to confront some of these people. They don't want to endanger people by trying to save property. So they said, you know, lives first, property second. And so you do see some officers here outside of that particular entrance as this is all going on inside. But he did clarify, he made it clear that because it looks like these are property crimes right now, they don't want to endanger their officers or any of the people who are there in that area.
Well, and the amount of officers that it would take to sweep Fashion Square as well. That is such a massive facility. To go in there and try to get that under control. It's a lot different as opposed to Phoenix. You know, I mean, what we have two officers from our vantage point. This is the one vantage point that we have, but certainly not as many officers as you did see in downtown Phoenix, where they were expecting that protest tonight. This is something that was not expected.
Yeah, and he did say that they had heard some rumblings on social media. Yeah, so we did ask him. He said, yes, you know, they had heard that something like this could happen, but, you know, you hope it never gets to this scale, and you don't necessarily expect that it will get to this scale. And he also, Brian from Scottsdale Police Department also said, you know, the people who are here doing this are simply there to vandalize, to loot, to cause damage. They're not aligned with the message that protesters are trying to get out in downtown Phoenix and other cities really across the entire country.
We have a new video coming in from the city of Phoenix. These are live images coming in. I think, Joey, you said that we have a fire in Phoenix. This is Fashion Square. We're trying to get that popped up for you. Here we go. This is downtown Phoenix. Not sure. This looks like this is in the Talking Stick Resort Arena, the Banquet Ballpark.
There we go.
Chase Field. There we go. Yeah. So that fire, new construction. That's actually a new apartment complex, a new high-rise apartment complex that they are building in that location. So you can see they're trying to light stuff on fire. Mike Pelton, I don't know, Joey, if we can go to Mike, if he can walk us through what's happening. But Mike was saying this is an area that didn't have a lot of police officers. The concentration was down kind of by police headquarters, the state capitol, 7th Avenue. This over here, more along the Chase Field area, Talking Stick Resort Arena. Okay, we do have Mike. Mike Pelton is there. Mike, what can you tell us? What's happening right now?
Of 3rd Street and Jefferson, a lot of the protesters came running, up 3rd Street, and then off in the distance, you might be able to see some of those police officers who have since forced the protesters down the street. So we're continuing to back up. We can't see flames anymore at the construction site, so it looks like the fire is out, best we can tell. But we had seen a bunch of people jump over the fence into that construction site over the past 20 minutes, and then flames started coming from some part of that site. Now all the protesters are starting to head north and kind of leave this area. But I believe that was tear gas that was just deployed out there along Jefferson. And Kyle, if you turn around, you can, off in the distance, the police, more than a dozen of them heading east on Jefferson, clearing out some of those protesters. You can hear that loud explosion in the background. That might be a firework right there. No, that's tear gas. We've seen a lot of fireworks over the past 15 minutes as well, with protesters tossing fireworks as we get, right in the eyes. Hey guys, we're going to try to get another block up here and we'll check back in with you, but this has escalated quickly over the past 10 minutes. Had been peaceful for a solid half an hour, and now, especially after that fire started, things really kind of escalated quickly here.
Mike, we want you to get to safety, get somewhere a little more out of the fray there. We'll check back in with you as things go. But I think we're starting to see what our Phoenix leaders and what the Phoenix police chief said would happen when they spoke earlier this afternoon. They said they would try to communicate with people as much as possible, to tell them to disperse, to tell them to get out of the area. And if they did not do that, that they would take action to get people out of this area, however they needed to do that.
Let's go back to Scottsdale right now. We have another live look in the city of Scottsdale, right outside Fashion Square, where we have seen just hundreds of people there looting Fashion Square, busting into stores. This is a live look right now. I'm not sure what we're actually looking at right now.
So this is
some of the.
That looks like some of the property.
This looks like some of the property that they have tried to steal outside Fashion Square. So I think this is kind of in the area along. I think it's Crate and Barrel along that way. There's a Sephora store right there.
Yeah, with that big parking lot.
The big parking lot right there. The underground parking garage as well. Anthropology, as you can kind of get a grasp of where you're at. In fact, and Scottsdale Police did tell us, Danielle, just a few minutes ago, that they did hear rumblings on this. And on social media, they specifically targeted, according to some of these social media posts, they targeted Fashion Square because it is the most high-end mall that we do have here really in the state. Some of the only high-end stores that we have in the state are located in this mall. And so some of the stores that they were talking about, maybe looting, trying to breach, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, we saw them get into Neiman Marcus. And so they showed up to Fashion Square with intention to cause damage. We saw the Apple store, them going through the Apple store was just, that was insane, watching all of those people bust in an Apple store and just get anything that they could get their hands on.
Well, and we know there are people inside the mall right now who are destroying things, who are stealing things, who are vandalizing things. And the police, saying, we heard from Scottsdale PD earlier tonight, they said, we don't want to put lives at risk for property.
Yeah.
And so here's that shot from the Apple store again. I think what's also really unfortunate with this is at a time where people have been forced to stay inside for so long. Things had just started opening up. You saw that banner on the Kona Grill restaurant saying now open, and now you have all of this damage, all of these things happening that these businesses are now going to have to somehow find the funds and the way to fix it. Same thing in downtown Phoenix. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage. And we want to keep reiterating, these people, as far as we know, we have not spoken to them, they don't have the same message as those protesters in downtown Phoenix who were demonstrating peacefully.
You notice they have no signs. There are no signs.
We haven't heard any chanting as far as we know.
They showed up with intention. And we have been watching just all along throughout the day, pretty much every city in the country has had protests, and people have been lighting cars on fire, they've been lighting buildings on fire. Minneapolis and St. Paul, they had over 140 buildings damaged. And so I know here, at least in the newsroom, we were thinking, is that going to happen here tonight? In the city of Phoenix, the mayor Gallego, Jerry Williams came out today, and they were telling people, do not do this. Like, they will show up in force to make sure that those businesses are protected in downtown Phoenix. What was not protected was Fashion Square Mall. As you can see, very little police presence in this area, as pretty much it's just a free-for-all. People are just doing whatever they want at this point. It's disheartening to see. I'm just seeing like messages come through on social media now, just people that have lived in this area.
Yeah.
This is a popular place. You do Christmas shopping here, you take your family here, and to see this happen, it's just making people sick.
Well, we saw earlier tonight too. I mean, as we approach midnight, not as many people out on the roads any longer, especially after this. But there was a point where the road there, right outside of Fashion Square, was packed with cars, and you had these demonstrators, these vandals running through the streets, involving these people who were just out for a regular night. Here's some video of that. You see them running across the street as cars are trying to go by. And just it's so disheartening, like you said, Justin, especially since in downtown Phoenix for a majority of the night, things were peaceful. We actually saw some conversations happening between law enforcement and demonstrators. And then to just see this, just utter destruction for the sake of destruction, it's really sad, and it's really disheartening.
We saw DPS even in downtown Phoenix. They were along I-10 making sure the protesters did not get on I-10, because in Seattle we saw protesters shut down part of one of the interstates there, Interstate 5. So this is a live look outside Fashion Square right now, where we did just a few minutes ago, we did see people running around the mall, a lot of them covering up their faces, probably trying to hide their identity as well, because there are security cameras all over the place in Fashion Square. Scottsdale police said that they are going to go through that video after this is all done, try to identify some of those people that are in the mall right now, taking advantage of this situation and stealing. But then Scottsdale, again, police said that they're not going to go in there. They're looking at this as property damage, and they don't want to put their officers in any kind of danger for property at this point. Here we go. This is more video right now of, again, those people just coming out of Fashion Square. This is the Neiman Marcus store.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, Justin, we had heard some rumblings that this could happen. Some things going around on social media at the time. You don't know if that's rumor or fact, but clearly this was an organized effort to go specifically to Fashion Square Mall and to do some damage. And this, as people in downtown Phoenix for most of the night were protesting, they were demonstrating very peacefully. A couple, one man and one woman spoke with our reporters, with Melissa and Mike, and very eloquently talked about why they were out there. They voiced their frustrations, their anger, but also said that you can't bring violence into this, that's not the way to show what you stand for. And
Yeah.
several of the community leaders echoing that sentiment this afternoon, saying that they understand the frustration, they understand the anger, that they too are disgusted with what happens in Minneapolis and other incidents that have happened across the country and here in Arizona. But to channel that frustration and that anger into action, into doing things that can make a difference. They mentioned earlier today, they mentioned voting. They mentioned, working with your local leaders, working with your city council, having conversations, not resorting to chaos.
I'm getting new information right now from one of our producers. It sounds like the situation in Scottsdale Fashion Square is escalating. Joey, is that right? Our producer, Joey? Okay, so this is a live look outside Fashion Square. Apparently one of the police officers on scene saying that it is escalating inside the mall right now, the situation inside the mall. So it's something that you just don't want to see. At this point it was peaceful throughout the night, and then we saw them starting to loot Fashion Square. But that is our understanding. Danielle?
Yeah, we had seen, when we were speaking with Brian Reynolds from the Scottsdale Police Department, we had seen several people actually inside the mall who were smashing cases or attempting to smash cases. We saw some graffiti inside the mall. So it's hard to know what's happening because it's happening inside. And as you mentioned, Fashion Square is a huge space. It's a huge building, and so it's scary to think of what could be happening inside there right now.
Yeah, as you see, just a swarm of police officers right now making their way to some place in Scottsdale. It just looks like that whole area right now is just in chaos. Police trying to get that area under control. I'm trying to place where everyone is at, where our photographer is at right now. I know Air 15, they had to go refuel. They have been up for hours. So this is kind of that area where they go, if we could go back out there live, that was the area that just kind of goes down into the food court from a parking lot, kind of where you pull in for valet and you go down into the food court. That's where our photographer is. There we go. That's the area that they're at.
Thank you.
And so we will continue to watch. We have our crew there on the ground. Also, one of our reporters, Melissa, she is heading there right now. We're told she's almost there to try to get us some more updates on what exactly is happening. It appears, at least from what we can see, that the outer area of Fashion Square Mall has cleared quite a bit from what we saw earlier. But again, we saw people run inside. We saw people run out with clothes and other items. And now police, it appears, they are going into the mall and trying to slowly clear people from the inside. And so our photographer there on scene saying that things appear to be escalating inside as police slowly try to go through and remove whoever may still be in there. But as we talked about earlier, this is a massive
it's a
area.
huge facility that you got to try to get a hold of. We do have a reporter, Melissa Blasius. She is in the area right now. We are trying to get a hold of her. We saw things escalating in downtown Phoenix as well. Our Mike Pelton is there. We saw folks trying to set a fire in downtown Phoenix. And this is something that we have just been watching all night as we watched other cities around the country deal with this. In New York City, things were very grim. In Chicago today, Los Angeles, Salt Lake City. Just pretty much every major city. And it was quiet throughout the day here in Phoenix and in Scottsdale. And then at 7 o'clock tonight, that's when that protest, the initial protest, was going to start outside the city of Phoenix, outside City Hall. And then it just kind of spread out from there. And then now we have this situation here in Scottsdale as well.
All right, we want to get out to ABC 15 photojournalist James Egbert. He is there on the ground outside Fashion Square Mall. What have you been hearing? What have you been seeing since you've been on scene?
Well, there were a ton of people just pouring out of the mall with merchandise that they'd been taking from inside. Police have been trying to secure this area that I'm in now that you can see. They're trying to push crowds back away from the mall that are outside. On the other side of me, if I turn around here, we got police over here in riot gear that assembled and were pushing people back towards the west side of the mall. We have officers down in here, but there seems to have quieted down a little bit inside the mall. It looks like they've gotten people out that were in there, but there were what sounded like gunshots earlier, and I was told that there was possibly somebody inside with a gun, but that has not been confirmed at this point. But there are crowds that keep trying to push back in towards the mall, and they keep being repelled.
You know, Jim, these looters, basically, they even made their way down to the Mercedes dealership. I'm seeing some things, some images come in. They have been smashing the cars, the Mercedes cars inside that dealership. You can see chairs thrown on top of cars there as they made their way down the road. So it's not just the stores at Fashion Square, it's the other businesses, even the restaurants surrounding that. These are live images, of course, coming in through Fashion Square right now as police are trying to get a hold of that situation as these looters are just making their way into the mall, stealing merchandise, running out. This has been going on for quite a while at this point. But again, Scottsdale police said that they're not going to put their officers in any danger for property at this point. So again, Jim, what is kind of, are you seeing a lot of police out there? Who are you seeing?
Behind me, I've got about 50 officers, either in riot gear or in plain clothes, that are securing the mall area and trying to push people back from the west side of the mall. They keep trying to enter this indoor parking area near the Kona Grill and the curbside pickup over here at Desert Nights. But people are hanging out in the parking lot area on the west side, and they keep trying to come in.
Have you seen any arrests?
No, not at this time. I have not seen any arrests. I have seen people that were definitely showing the effects of either being hit by a rubber bullet or gas.
What are people, I mean, I've seen some people just running out. One woman had a shopping bag, and she was running out with a shopping bag full of clothes. Is that most people? Is that what you're seeing?
Yes, exactly. I'm seeing people coming out with large bags from Neiman Marcus and many of the other stores around here. I've seen one guy carrying around what looked like about 10 purses that were designer purses, and I walked past a pile of them back here over by Anthropology, and there was like 2 piles of purses hanging out over there. But people just running around in there. What you saw earlier, you saw someone trying to break into one of the kiosks in the center of the mall that has cell phones in it, but were not able to break the glass.
What can you tell me? I mean, Fashion Square, the restaurants around in there, Old Town Scottsdale, it's a popular spot for a Saturday night. I mean, are most people mixed in there just taking pictures? Like, well, what's the mood there? I mean, because now you've got, I don't know if you want to call them protesters, but these people that are in there looting mixed in with just regular folks out there trying to have a good night.
I don't even see anybody that even resembles a protester at this point, like what we've seen downtown Phoenix. What I'm seeing are people just taking the opportunity to come through here and loot the mall. People going in, smash and grab, getting out. As far as other shops and all that, I came up from the west side, so I did not get to go through downtown or through Old Town as well. But what I saw here on the west side, trying to work my way over here on foot, was a lot of people running. And there were people that were here doing their normal shopping that were trying to get out of here, to get away from the crowds that were coming into the mall. And then there's those that are out here yelling and screaming and going inside and basically pillaging.
You know, Jim, at one point, I think you got the shot, or maybe it was Air 15, but we saw somebody just pull up, they got out of their car, and they went inside the mall. It was very, very deliberate. They knew what they were doing. They just walked right into the mall to steal.
Yeah, definitely. There was actually an open door I was nearby earlier, and people just calmly walking up, going in this open door, and trying to go inside and take what they could from the store.
Now earlier, Jim, we had seen a very large group of people moving kind of systematically from store to store around that area. It looks like it's just kind of a few people sprinkled here and there. What's the crowd? How would you describe the crowd or the people out there now?
When I first got here, it was pretty big, but now it's like really quiet in the mall. I'm not hearing any breakage or any running around or yelling inside. I think most people came and got what they wanted and left.
Is it, Jim, I think we're looking at your shot. Is it possible for you to walk like around the corner to the, I would like to see the Apple Store.
Yeah,
because the images coming from the Apple Store were just, it was unbelievable. And I've been seeing people just on social media just in shock. You know, that they've lived in this area for years, they shop in this mall, and watching something like that happen in their own community, they're just absolutely in shock.
Well, I'm kind of cordoned into one area at this point. I can't get around to where the Apple Store is. I'm over here by the Yard House, and that's about as close as I can get at the moment.
And so this is video of the Apple Store, people just busting through the doors of the Apple Store, and then you can see them just going in there, trying to get whatever they could.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the images that just has stuck with us throughout the night. There are several, but this one in particular, just showing that group there busting through the Apple Store, making their way inside, and then after this is when we saw them gain entry into the mall itself and start to just steal and you know, destroy property in there.
Jim, I think we'll up on Jim, our photojournalist on the phone. Can you still see people running through the mall? Because we saw images not long ago of people just running through the mall with what looked like some kind of something in their hand to just bust open cases.
Yes, actually, I just saw some people running across the second level up here from the Neiman's Marcus area where I was looking in through the door a little while ago. And there's still a couple more down on the lower level here walking in from what looks like the north end towards my direction.
I don't know if you can, it looks like, yeah, we can still see people in there just running around the mall as Jim just kind of pushes in.
You got one on camera right now.
Yeah, here they come.
Yep.
Look at him run out with merchandise.
Yeah.
Purses.
Bags. Oh, now it looks like they're
Oh,
going
now
back in.
they realize that they're on television. Yeah. This is what we did not want to see. This is what city officials were talking about, that they were pleading. We had clergy coming out today pleading with people, please, please, please do not do this, because this really just destroys the message. This really destroys what they want to accomplish.
Yes.
And that is come together, talk, and to come up with some kind of a solution and change things in the country.
Right. We have ABC 15's Melissa Blasius now. She's made her way from downtown Phoenix to Scottsdale. Melissa, where are you exactly? Looks like you're outside the Mercedes-Benz dealership. What are you seeing right now? And what did you see on your way over here? Okay, looks like we're having some trouble hearing you, Melissa. We'll come back to you as soon as we get those audio issues worked out. But in the meantime, we are going to continue to show you some video of some incidents that have been happening throughout the night, not just in Scottsdale, but we've also been keeping a close eye on downtown Phoenix as well. We have crews spread out in both of those areas. We're going to attempt to go back to Melissa to see if we can hear her now. We were having some audio issues a little earlier. Melissa, let's try this
now. Okay.
Yeah, sir, we are trying to get...
Hang on just a second. There we go. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I think we're good now, guys. Okay, sorry about that. I want to show you the police cars are coming by here right now. We have seen literally dozens of police cars coming into this area to try to secure the situation here in Scottsdale. We've seen cars from Mesa as well. Lots of police cars, dozens of police cars coming into the area to try to secure things here. This is the Mercedes dealership across the street from Fashion Square right now. You can see inside that people were able to get inside and smash at least one windshield here, a couple of other windows on the vehicles. My photographer saying at least 3 that he can see just looking into the window here. Again, lots of police rushing into this area. As we came in to Scottsdale, into the area surrounding Scottsdale Fashion Square. In fact, look, there's someone inside the Mercedes-Benz dealership right now, and it looks like
he works there, guys. He fucking works there, guys.
Okay, we don't know what he's doing. We don't know what he's doing. We don't know if
he works there. He works there.
We don't know what he's doing. So we're going to try to find some more of this information out. We're actually going to go. I want to show you right here now. You're seeing
they all work here, guys.
More police cars coming in now.
Fuck ABC, bruh. Fuck ABC,
hey.
bro.
People, I apologize about some of the language that some of these folks are using. As we were coming in, groups of people, 20, 30 people at a time. Yeah. We saw some with rocks in their hands as they were walking down the street.
We'll let you wrap up, Melissa, and maybe get to a better position. We apologize for all of that coming over on air. We do have Air 15 back with us. This is a live look right now. This is in downtown Phoenix. As you can see, protesters making their way through downtown Phoenix and folks on top of that Jeep. I'm not sure where this is at in downtown.
And also we're not exactly sure where they're going
Right.
or what their intentions are. Again, we do have 2 of our crews still there on the ground in downtown who are speaking with people who are marching, who are trying to keep us updated on exactly what's going on. But again, this is such a fluid situation, especially now monitoring things both in downtown Phoenix and in Scottsdale. And so trying to keep a hold on where everybody's going and what everyone's doing is proving to be difficult. But Mike Pelton and Melissa, both of them pretty much walked with demonstrators for most of the evening, I would say, for miles, just around downtown Phoenix.
Melissa said that she walked 5 miles, and that was a couple of hours ago that when we talked to her. And that has been one of the challenges that they have said with these protesters is that it's not just one group. They've broken up into several groups, and then they start to wander around downtown. And Mike Pelton was telling us earlier that they were outside the Phoenix Police Headquarters. They really couldn't do anything there because there was such a heavy police presence, so they moved. And then they went over by Talking Stick Resort Arena, Chase Field. We did see a small fire set there. Police then eventually caught up to them, and they dispersed. But I believe they're walking eastbound or east of downtown. The thing is we don't know where they're going. That has been the situation all night. We've seen them, large groups, move, and we have no idea where they're going. I believe they're walking east from downtown.
Well, and there are several different groups also throughout downtown Phoenix. So we want to get back to ABC 15's Mike Pelton. We want to check in with him once again. Mike, we left you a little earlier. It seemed that you'd gotten caught up in some tear gas. First off, how are you doing and what's happening now where you are?
Oh, we're okay, Danielle. When you saw us earlier, there was a fire that broke out at a construction site near 3rd Street in Jefferson. That fire, once we left that area, we didn't see flames any longer, but there was some tear gas, so that kind of pushed the crowd further back. We are now seeing a bunch of police officers here near 3rd Avenue in Washington. We had been following kind of a small group of protesters, about 50 of them, heading west on Washington. All of those police officers you just saw drive by aren't coming for the group that we're with. You can see them right here. They've been chanting. They were just chanting towards some of the officers at City Hall. So honestly, I have no idea where those police officers went to. We're going to try to walk around the corner, see if we can't see anything, because Danielle and Justin, as you guys saw, it has been pretty quiet where we're located. And then right as you came to us, all of a sudden about a dozen police officers went driving quickly down the street. And here they are. You can see them getting out of the vehicles down here.
Where are you, Mike?
This is City Hall to your right, just for reference.
I was going to say...
We're just west of City Hall. So we're at 3rd Avenue in Washington. That's City Hall. That's where about 50 protesters just walked that direction west. You can see the end of the tail end of that group right there. And Justin, what's happening is remember about 2 hours ago when there was that confrontation at outside Phoenix Police Headquarters? Well, the group, what was at one time a really large group, kind of split in half, and then those groups have since split in half again. So you have a lot of different groups all over the city of Phoenix. We're kind of following them as best we can, but we've seen a lot of officers now start to stage on the northwest corner or just northwest of City Hall. Unclear what they're preparing for, but again, some of these groups are starting to split in half. And when we talked to you last time, about half an hour ago, when there was that tear gas and the fire, that also kind of split some of those groups. So you have multiple smaller groups all around Phoenix, and we're trying to keep tabs on what's going on, exactly where it's all taking place, as our police, which is why you saw them speed down that street right there.
All right, our Mike Pelton out there for us live. John Genovese is also in downtown Phoenix. John, where are you and what are you seeing?
Yeah, Justin, we are just near First Avenue and Washington here, and it seems like Mike and I actually might be at opposite ends of this group. If you look down the way, that is Adams. We just saw this large group of folks heading west, then stop and turn around and start going east again. And this is really the main group that is still downtown right now. If we turn around, you can see this large officer presence. We just saw all of these cars just really zoom in here, spin around, drive through the tracks, hop the curb, try to get in place as these officers quickly unloaded their trunks, trying to get that riot gear and their non-lethal weapons and other equipment out of their cars as they monitor this group again, making its way now east on Adams and back into the central downtown area. This looks like a group of several hundred people still out here, and a much different scene than what we saw at Phoenix Police Headquarters. And we do have some live images there from the Cliff Castle chopper overhead as well downtown. But you can see there this group of several hundred people walking back and forth through the downtown area. We were outside Phoenix Police Headquarters for much of tonight when things had calmed down about an hour ago. You guys saw as police started letting off tear gas, more smoke grenades. They were having that exchange with protesters. And then this group really made its way into the central part of the city. And now we are really just south of where they are, as you see them walking across Adams right now, and again this large police presence just making its way into this area. Now it's strange because just a few blocks down, police really have that area sealed off near headquarters, near the state capitol building. They have barricades up, they have officers pretty much on every corner. So this group seems to be focusing in the business area of downtown, in the central part of downtown. We heard there may have been an incident at Chase Field just a little bit earlier, and as Mike was explaining, depending on where this group is, that's where this activity is, and these officers seemingly are just trying to keep up with them at this point. It was within a few moments, guys, that all of these police cars just piled in here, really, hopped the curb, got in place. These officers hopped out and grabbed their gear as this group made its way over here. We hear them shouting now, "No justice, no peace," as they are weaving their way through cars. You can see their horns honking. They're continuing to hold signs here. And Carlos, I don't know if we're in a position to walk down just a little bit as we try to follow this group, but again, they were heading west on Adams there, and something must have stopped them because they just pretty much turned right around as, again, this group of police officers behind us now are just staging, it appears, trying to prevent them from going back towards Phoenix Police Headquarters, from going back towards the area of the state capitol building. And now this group is just going through the central part of downtown, running, weaving through these cars. Again, you hear those horns honking right now as we try to make our way up to them, guys. But
John,
it has been a strange set of events down here.
I have a question for you, John. You know, last night we saw them busting out windows. They were busting out windows of squad cars. There was a lot of damage. Are you seeing that again tonight, or are they just basically moving from place to place?
Now, what I have seen personally is really just vandalism, like this stuff right here. Like these demonstrators or these protesters writing on these signs. We saw one window get partially shattered at the federal courthouse. We saw those fireworks going off, but I have not seen them actually smashing out police car windows like we did last night, other windows like we did last night. Not to say that that hasn't happened. That's just not something that I've personally witnessed. I don't know from Mike's vantage point, as Mike's been tailing them, and Melissa as well, if he's seen something different. but I haven't personally seen that, Justin.
Okay, our John Genovese for us live. This is Air 15 video that we're just seeing right now, Danielle.
Yeah, we've had our crews on the ground and also up in the air trying to get a bird's eye view of what's been happening. It appears some of those demonstrators moved a bunch of the barriers that were set up to try to prevent people from causing damage to any of the city buildings or even private buildings like they did last night. So it appears that they're moving on, but again, seeing things continue to develop in downtown Phoenix as we approach 12:30 now in the morning on Sunday. We want to take you back to Scottsdale now, where we have also been monitoring the situation there outside of Fashion Square and that whole surrounding area. This is video from what's happening in Phoenix. Here we are in Scottsdale. Melissa Blasius making her way from Phoenix to Scottsdale tonight. Melissa, what's the latest where you are?
Well, right now we've seen a large number of police come into the area, not only from Scottsdale, but definitely from Mesa, and they're staging at this point. We were over just a few minutes ago. We moved over near where the police are now, but we were over here by this Mercedes-Benz dealership, in addition to a bunch of vehicles inside having their windows smashed out. A lot of the very large plate glass windows on the side of the building have also been smashed out by people here in Scottsdale. Just massive damage to this building. In addition, now they are carrying a young woman, it appears. They're carrying someone to try to get her out from there. There were some tense moments there where a bunch of people were surrounding a young woman. Police went over there to check that out. I want to show you the amount of police presence that has arrived here to try to stabilize this situation in Scottsdale. And Donnie, if you turn your camera to the right, to your right, please. I want to show you the police officers over here, all of these police cars. We're going to head down that way next, where they've staged a large number of police officers to try to get a handle on the situation and to stabilize the situation here at Scottsdale Fashion Square. I should tell you that there are also, for some reason, a bunch of spectators out here just watching, and so police would urge you, if you're in Scottsdale, please don't come down here. They have a lot to do tonight, and they are trying to make sure that they can get this stabilized as soon as possible, and extra people in traffic is only aggravating that whole situation here. So still some pushing and stuff amongst the people who are out here that we're watching. We're going to head down and we'll get back to you guys in a few minutes as soon as we can bring you some new pictures from over where the police are staging and talk to you about what they're doing at this point.
Real quick, Melissa, before you head back down to where law enforcement is staging, we saw you in front of the Mercedes dealership, some of the windows broken there. We've been watching from the air as protesters were shattering all sorts of windows. Have you seen, what's the extent of the damage in that area that you've been able to see so far?
Sure, we've seen a couple of buildings damaged. We've also seen literally people walking down the sidewalk with rocks in their hands. It's something that you would not expect to see here in the Valley. And it has been an incredibly difficult night for so many people involved now in both of these cities.
Is that one
and
police?
The crowd, as you can see, it's.
Melissa, is that one police officer?
Is that one police what?
Is that one police officer? Okay, it's several police.
Several.
It's several. Okay, I only saw the one.
So no, there's 3 or 4.
Okay.
There's 3 or 4, but the crowd's kind of turning on one another. The police are trying to get these folks away. I don't know what's going on, but there were some crowds we saw that had surrounded
that just looks
one
like
woman.
That just looks like
and police went. The police went out to try to help her.
Yeah, they don't look like they were somebody that was
is
looting right there. It looked like they were just out for
right.
a dinner.
I don't know if they were or not, or if they're somehow affiliated with the Mercedes dealership and they were trying to secure their business or figure out what was going on out here. But the police had to come in and get those people out of the area because the crowd had turned on them. And so we actually had seen some of it, and we went and we grabbed some police officers and asked them to go in and see if they could help the people. And now they've separated that small group of people from the rest of the crowd. crowd out here. So, and just so you know where we are, we're at Scottsdale and Highland right now. We're going to head to the mall itself and bring you pictures from there as soon as possible. Oh, and you can see over here, guys, just in the last few minutes, we're going to walk over here. If you want to stay with us here, you can see we've got the police in their tactical gear now out on the street. I don't know if they're heading towards the dealership here, but they're starting to organize here to try to get a handle on this situation. Like I said, that it's a multi-city response here in Scottsdale tonight to try to bring peace and quiet and to stop the vandalism and the looting here at Scottsdale Fashion Square.
Melissa, is that pretty much the only crowd right there? I mean, you see these officers that are walking towards you. Is that the only crowd really that's on the corner over there by the Mercedes dealership?
No, it's not. In fact, for a several block area, we saw groups of people, some 10, 20, 30 of them at a time.
I just didn't know if in that particular area, if that was the only crowd.
We're going. All right, Melissa, it looks like you're kind of being told to...
Okay, we're moving. I'm sorry, the police are asking us to
Go
move
ahead.
now. We're going to try to find a safe place. Obviously, we had tried to go towards the officers, feeling that was safe. These are DPS troopers here in their tactical gear, live on the air right now.
Okay, you go to a safer
And we're going to
location,
come back
Melissa.
over here where
We'll
these
check in
officers
with
are
you.
blocking traffic.
All right, we're going to go to downtown Phoenix
Okay.
while Melissa and her photographer get to a safer location. They want to make sure they're following what police and law enforcement there are asking them to do as they try to disperse the crowd in Scottsdale. Let's go back to downtown Phoenix. John Genovese standing by for us. John, how are things shaping up where you are?
Yeah, guys, we are just across from the Renaissance Hotel downtown right now, and it has been a chaotic scene in just the last few minutes. We have seen, you see some squad cars there. We saw about a dozen other squad cars racing north on Central Avenue to a different scene. We saw this group of ATV riders seemingly racing downtown here just a few moments ago. We have seen this group of these protesters that remain kind of break apart into smaller groups and now kind of encompass this central part of downtown as, again, this unlawful assembly has been in place for several hours now. You can see that group they've been doing circles around the downtown area. They were doing wheelies a few moments ago, again with these police officers circling them as well as they try to figure out where this group is separated to and what exactly is happening. Now, as we've inched more into the central part of the city, we've certainly seen a lot more activity. As I was telling you guys just a few minutes ago, down by police headquarters, down by the state capitol, that has really calmed down immensely tonight. We saw that exchange a few hours ago, and then the folks in this group that are still left moved back into the central part of the city again as they are kind of scattered out and about. We just saw them walk down here on Adams a few minutes ago, past the Renaissance, east into the downtown area, and as I mentioned, those dozen or so police cruisers heading north here on Central to some other scene. You can see down the way those emergency lights. Unclear exactly what's happening there. We know when we were over by police headquarters, it appeared as though police had closed off the exit and entrance to the I-10 there as they have put up barricades and signs and started to lock down part of the downtown area. But this has gone on for several hours now where things have taken a turn. These demonstrators have been, we've seen them vandalizing, we've seen them racing seemingly and doing other sorts of things like that as police have taken a more aggressive approach. But obviously, every corner we turn, we are finding something else, guys, and we're going to stay out here and keep trying to keep an eye on things that are happening downtown as we reach out to police for more information on exactly what's heading and going on down there. We'll certainly pass that along. But for now, reporting live downtown, John Genovese, ABC 15, Arizona.
John, I do have a question for you really quick. I mean, it's 12:35 in the morning right now. Are you seeing the crowd disperse at all? I know some cities across the country, they have had a curfew in place. We do not. So pretty much the crowd can stay for as long as they want. Are you seeing them start to dissipate, though, at all?
have we seen the crowds start to dissipate? We certainly did, especially when things started becoming more heated down by Phoenix Police Headquarters. I mean, when this all began tonight, there were several hundred demonstrators. Again, this was peaceful for several hours, right until 10 o'clock or so, and that's when we saw that exchange at Phoenix Police Headquarters. That's when we saw that tear gas get deployed, those smoke grenades, and much of this group, or what was left of this group, moving to the downtown area, but many other of those folks that had started off here tonight simply left. This is a smaller group than what began in that peaceful protest earlier this evening. So yes, people are leaving, but it's a smaller group that is out here, and they are circling around downtown again, breaking off into smaller groups as they continue walking around, chanting, holding signs. And we're again, every corner that we turn, we see some other activity here.
Yeah, they're walking right by the Renaissance Hotel. I think, John, they're actually just kind of walking right behind you right now. They just passed Chase Tower as well. It looks like they're walking south right now towards the cityscape area.
Yeah, we see a few on that kitty corner to Chase Tower. We actually see a group over here. If we look down past the Renaissance, you see a group there. We saw a group, if you actually look west on Adams, just a few minutes ago as well. So they've divided into these smaller groups that are going around. And again, we saw that group on ATVs as well. So these aren't just folks on foot, they're also in vehicles as they kind of make their way through downtown. Now, you guys were talking earlier about that helicopter that had been up. That helicopter is still up over us, in fact, with its spotlight, trying to keep tabs on this group, and we can only presume any illegal activity that may be happening. But yes, they are still out. It is a smaller group than what started earlier this evening, but they are still active, guys, chanting, holding signs, yelling, and when they come into contact with police, they are yelling at those officers. We have not seen any more flashbangs or tear gas per se since we were out at Phoenix Police Headquarters, but certainly what's left of this group still active tonight.
All right, John Genovese there on the ground in downtown Phoenix for us. Thank you, John, for keeping us updated on everything that's going on there. We want to take you back to Scottsdale. Now, these are some pictures from earlier in the evening near Fashion Square Mall. This was actually a group storming Neiman Marcus earlier tonight. And then they went on to vandalize several businesses in that area. At one point, they actually breached the mall and were inside, damaging businesses and stealing. Yeah. We saw people running out of the mall with clothes in their hands.
Handfuls of purses.
That's right. Just grabbing stuff and going. We did speak with Brian Reynolds, a sergeant with Scottsdale Police Department earlier, and he said that at first they were trying to be extra cautious in how they approached people because they didn't want to risk hurting people who were there, possibly protesting or hurting their officers. But then, of course, once things started to get more aggressive, they had to bump up that enforcement and step in. Let's get back to Melissa Blasius. She is still there in Scottsdale. We had to cut away earlier because police telling her to move to a safer location. So, of course, she's going to do all she can to help law enforcement out there tonight. How are things going now where you are, Melissa? I see it seems like you've been able to move to a better spot.
Yes, we've moved to a better spot outside of where the police line is. I want you to take a look over here. We're still across the street from the Mercedes-Benz dealership here. The SWAT team has now arrived. We don't know exactly why, in particular, the SWAT team with their SWAT vehicle has arrived here at the dealership. Again, there are other officers in their tactical gear, several different agencies here in Scottsdale to be to try to bring the situation under control here. We know just minutes ago that we were still seeing people inside the Mercedes dealership. We don't know who these people are or what they're doing in there, in particular, whether or not that they are looters or vandals of some sort, or maybe they're an employee. We just don't know at this point. We're going to try to get some more information about this, but it is a quickly evolving situation out here. Also, we saw some people coming out of the dealership with bags, multiple bags in their hands. So again, an evolving situation, and the crowds really, I mean, they're still here. They're not moving away despite the officers coming in their tactical gear, now moving in onto the dealership property. And we're just going to kind of watch as this unfolds here. Again, this dealership is literally across the street from the north end of Scottsdale Fashion Square, and both tactical officers as well as the SWAT team have arrived here to try to bring the situation at the dealership under control. We can tell you that dozens and dozens of police officers moved in as we arrived here 20 or 30 minutes ago. We see police officers on horseback, police officers in tactical gear. I can also tell you that this situation goes over numerous blocks, not just the Fashion Square, but for several blocks into Old Town Scottsdale. Adjoining it, we saw groups of people, some with rocks in their hands, walking through the streets, back and forth across the streets, through the parts of Old Town Scottsdale as well. So this is a multi-block situation, in addition to the damage and the looting that's happened at the mall. It continues to evolve out here in Scottsdale. And again, like I said, there are literally people here in Scottsdale who are spectating, just come to check it out. And so police are urging people to stay out of the area. They've had some issues with cars. I mean, the cars are still coming right up to this intersection here. People out on their Saturday night, you would guess. But they're having to deal with a lot of not only crowd control and getting this looting situation under control, but also with just all of the people who are generally in this area on a Saturday night.
All right, Melissa Blasey is there.
Let me let you see
for us tonight, watching as law enforcement moves in to try and get anyone who is still there from those demonstrations earlier to leave the area. We are also keeping a close eye on downtown Phoenix. This is a live look. The Cliff Castle chopper pulling out there. But we have been watching very closely throughout downtown. We have had crews on the ground documenting what has been going on. I believe we also have some video from throughout the night showing some of the different moments as things escalated in downtown Phoenix. For the most part, there were peaceful protests until a couple of incidents like this started to happen. Some protesters throwing what appeared to be fireworks at police officers who were lined up in front of Phoenix PD headquarters. They then responded with some of that tear gas that you see there and their own flashbangs, rubber bullets as well. They told the crowd to disperse repeatedly, and then slowly throughout the night they have started to move in more and more to try to get this crowd in downtown Phoenix to disperse. Mike Pelton and John Genovese have been bringing us live updates all evening long. They were walking with those demonstrators all evening long, and again, for the most part, it was peaceful, and we did not see so much of the vandalism that we saw last night. This is after that stern warning from Phoenix city leaders and also the Phoenix police chief earlier today, warning that they would not tolerate the same level of violence and destruction that they saw last night. At this point, it appears, in Phoenix anyway, that things have not escalated to that degree, and we certainly hope when things wrap up and into the morning that we don't see as much damage as we saw there. But sadly, the situation in Scottsdale will surely be much different. Fashion Square Mall, when things settle down a bit there and we're able to see the damage, especially in the morning, ABC 15 mornings, they'll pick up the coverage. I have a feeling it's going to be pretty devastating.
Yeah, I'm sure. And people are just trying to wrap their minds around this. People that go to Fashion Square, that, you know, it's a very popular area. What was that, Joey, our producer? Okay, we do have Mike Pelton. He is standing by in downtown Phoenix. Mike, where are you and what are you seeing?
Yeah, and Justin, bear with me for just 1 second here. We're kind of working our way through a pretty big crowd, First Street in Washington. And what just happened is, and I want to show you this. Bear with me 1 second, Justin. This whole crowd just ran, sprinted east. I think because there's some police officers down here. But I want to show you this. Bear with me, we're working our way. Yeah, there's a group of officers down there. Not sure what happened, but the group started to run.
Mike, we're having a hard time hearing you.
Here's all the damage. I wanted to show you. This. Hey, can you hear us?
That's better.
Okay, Justin?
Yes, that's better.
Okay. You can see officers just a block to our west marching down the street. A big group of people just ran to the east. There's people breaking out the windows. Sorry, we're kind of our heads on a swivel right now. Yeah, people are throwing stuff all over the place. There are windows smashed. I don't know what building this is, Justin. Northwest corner of Washington, I think First Street.
That's Renaissance
Windows
Square.
are smashed all down here. You can see some of the glass. You can see some of the glass right there on this building as people have just been throwing items towards these windows for the past 10 minutes or so. Now, to be fair, there have been people when some of this has happened. And we got a gentleman yelling that this isn't somebody involved in the protest. So you have people trying to stop it, saying that the people who are committing violence are not the ones who are here to protest and peacefully protest. And we have seen a lot of people peacefully protesting throughout the evening. They've been kneeling in the intersection. But just in the past 10 minutes, we've seen people start to break windows. There's shattered glass all down the street there. We've seen people start to spray paint along the side of the road and on the sidewalk. So we have seen more property damage over the past 10 minutes or so. Some people, yes, are definitely trying to stop it. And you had that one gentleman just come up to me and say, it's not part of the protest. Nevertheless, Justin, as sunlight comes up again, there's going to be property damage throughout downtown Phoenix. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Mike, for that update. Looks like I spoke a little too soon in saying that we didn't see as much property damage. Hopefully that's the extent of it going into these overnight hours, or really early morning at this point as we approach 1 a.m. Let's get back to John Genovese. John, a huge gathering of police officers behind you. What's going on? What happened?
Yeah, and guys, we just saw these officers actually start walking south here on Central Avenue to where we are now at Washington and Central, and you can see some of these officers have someone surrounded on the ground there. Now, just 3 or 4 minutes ago, we saw a large fireworks explosion go off here, and then another explosion that we presume came from these police as they were inching their way south here again along Central and kind of came into contact with this group. But a large number of riot officers here, and still you can see someone, we can't tell if they may be detained here or if officers there are providing some sort of care to that person on the ground there, but they haven't appeared to move for several minutes now, so we're kind of waiting to see what's happening with that. But yeah, a lot of these riot officers are just inching their way through downtown again. A lot more cruisers, squad cars circling these streets as they try to figure out where these demonstrators are, the ones that are causing issues at least, and then deal with those situations. So it is going to be an active night for police, for DPS, for the sheriff's office, as they are out here trying to get a handle on this. And as Mike mentioned, once the sun comes up, we can only guess the extent that the damage is down here just from what we've seen walking around. Nothing major I've seen, but we know in last night's case, once we got a better look, that's when we found out a lot of these windows. That's when we found out the extent of this damage, and police certainly didn't want to repeat that again tonight, and we have seen a much more aggressive approach in just the last few hours, guys.
All right, our John Genovese out there live for us. Thank you, John. Stay safe out there. I know you're going to stay safe as this protest continues. We are now in hour 6 of this protest. Started tonight at 7 o'clock, peaceful. It has since escalated.
Yes, and our coverage will continue online, abc15.com, our mobile app, and of course, ABC 15 Mornings tomorrow will also pick up with live reports. Thank you for joining us tonight. Stay safe, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.